Hi everybody, welcome once again to Yerushalmi Chagigah, and we're up to Daf Yudalid at the top of the Amud. Third line says Ma'isa bil Lazokin Shevi Ulasu Lazor V'Samach Las. We've been discussing the Machlokes V'Shamis Hill of Smicha, right? One of the first Machlokes in the that we had in the Torah, and so it was a story of Behil Azakin. Hillel himself brought his oil to the Azar and he did smicha. Chibru all of Tamidei Shammai, so he ganged up on a bunch of Tamidei Shammai, and his Chil Mekashkesh Beznos, he starts like flicking around with its tail, and he says, Amalai says, Ru Nekevehi. Don't worry, guys, it's a Nekevu Shlomim, maybe you see it. It's a Shlomim that I'm bringing. But actually, Fligim Devodim Alchalahan, really, he was fooling. That was really a Zach. I guess maybe in those days, people didn't know almost as much about animals as we know today. I'm talking to the city slickers here. So, they went, they left him. Obviously, they were ganging up on him, telling him he's not allowed to do smicha. They were going to be, Shammai had the upper hand, and they were going to, B'Shammai the upper hand, they were going to pass an halacha like them, that you can't do smicha and yontev. So they had Bava ben Buta over there, one of the Talmidim of Beishamai, and he knew that the halacha should be like this hill. So what did he do? Pamachas nichnas azor, he went into the azor, and matzu shememes, he found it empty. Very few people there. Ama yishmu botein shalelu shehishmu is beis Elokeinu. Let the houses of people that caused the Beis Hamikdash to be empty, no, namely Beis Shammai, because they're passing can't bring oilers, can't do smicha. So yeah, the place is empty. Let the houses be empty. Meo, so what did he do, Baba Ben Buta? Again, keep in mind he was a Talmud of Shammai. Masa Shalach vehebi shloishes al alafim talam mitzonke. They brought 3,000 sheep from Tzon fancy sheep. Ubikron mimumin, he checked them for mumin, make sure there's no mumin. V'amid ma'arbayis, put them ma'arbayis. V'amar lahen, and he says to the crowd, Shemuni achai beis Yisrael, listen to me, all my brothers here. Kol mishu roitze yavi oilois, yavi v'yismach, yavi shlomim v'yismach. Whoever wants to bring a carbon, go ahead. It's on the house. Bring carbonis. Doesn't matter. It's oilo shlomim. Do smicha for the shlomim. The oyster show what happened. Nikva obviously was a stampede to get the call the carbonis. The oyster show nikva lacha ve'sil v'loy ma'odem davar. From then on, nobody ever said anything. Lacha was kavua. They were kaved halacha like Beis Hillel. What's this a marshal to? So this is a marshal to Hador Kaso. There's a couple of pshatim here. I'm just going to go through Rechem Kanievsky. Hador Kaso, like a pat or a cup. Sherusa by when you are cooking it up for the first time, you got to do it needs a stack full of wood. Takes a lot of wood to eat something up for the first time. But sasa the kisa, I mean, a cup or a pot that's already hot. It needs much less wood because it retains a lot of its own heat. So the same thing over here. Originally, to be kaved halacha like Beis Hillel, they need to make a big rush. You have to go and do something drastic, like bringing thousands of animals to the Beis Hamikdash and announcing what he did. After that, already loy and dava, because it was established halacha. No one said anything anymore. Or kol gumra the loy kavi b'shat loy kavia. Any coal that doesn't get hot when you initially try to heat it, that's it. It's over for this coal. It's never gonna get hot again. In other words, once you heat something up, you don't have to do it again. So he made his ruckus, and the halacha was established like Beis Hillel. There's a story after this happened. There was a story of one of Talmidei Beis Hillel. Shehevi Alas Lazar v'Samach Oleo Bro Echad miTalmidei Beis Shammai. So one of the Talmidei Shammai sees his Talmid Beis Hillel doing smicha. Amalem Mazu smicha. You're doing smicha. What's the smicha? Amalei Mazu shtika. You don't know how to shut up. V'Shiska v'Nazifa. And they went and they shut him up, but they were strict about it. They mamish shut him up. Shut your mouth, like that kind of language. And this Talmud of Shammai left. That was to prove the point. Once we had this machlokes, so we decided that lacha, you have to go all out to make sure that people keep it that way. You can't decide to be machma on your own, especially in public. Okay. Zok Mishnah Locha Dalet. Atzeres Shechol Yisef Shabbos. What happens if Shavuos comes out on a Friday? B'Shamay Amrim Yom Tavuach Lacha Shabbos. So again, B'Shamay holds you can't bring oilus on on you can't bring us on Yantif, can't bring a Zicha, can't bring anything on Shabbos either. So therefore, you have to shecht it on Sunday. They don't have a special Yom Tovach. In other words, if Shavuos falls on a Friday, you shecht the Kabbanis on Friday. Umoidim, Beis Hillel agrees, however, Shemcholi is b'Shabbos, that if, let's say Shavuos falls out on Shabbos, Yom Tovach Lacha Shabbos, that you bring the Kabbanis, that the Kabbanis are not Doiche Shabbos, and you bring it on Sunday. Vein Kohen Gadol Mislabish Bekelov. And this is a strange statement. We'll explain the Gemara. The Kohen Gadol doesn't wear his dress chash of a uniform, and mutarim besped behesped or tainis, and you're allowed to do. Normally, when a person brings a carbon, he can't. He's also it's like a yontif, so he can't. There's no hesped tainis. There's no sis malacha for that person. And but here it's mutter. Why? Shalom lekamis dibra oimen amateres lacha Shabbos. To lahaitzi milum shel tzedukim, they used to say that atzeres is always on Sunday. Always on Sunday, because it says Lamarchas HaShabbos, so they dashing that's Shabbos referring to Shabbos Bereshis, knows the calendar Shabbos, and they always made that service for them was always not the Shabbos Sunday. So to show them that Sunday is not a yontif, we have to go in all out to show that it's not a yontif. Atzer Shechel Zikti Gemara Atzer Shechel Elias Erev Shabbos B'Shem Yom Tvoch Shalolach HaShabbos. B'Salom Ein Lo Yom Tvoyach Elo Yom Hutfucha. No, this doesn't have a special Yom Tvoch like we said. The yontif is the day you shecht. Ha Beisham now ha is gufa. Ha is no it's gufa. Beisham yom mi tvok shelo acher Shabbos bein Kohen Gadol mislabish bekelev mikal v'chayme. And the Kohen Gadol, like I said, doesn't wear his dress uniform from a kal v'chayme. Uma in bishah sheyesh shlam v'oilos k'div reis hila ein Kohen Gadol mislabish bekelev madach. On a day where we said Shavuos fell out on Shabbos, and you bring in Kabbanis, everybody agrees they're not the Kabbanis are not Doiche Shabbos, so if you bring them on Sunday, and you bring all the Kabbanis, right? It doesn't wear his uniform. So Kedivrei Beis Shammai, Lo Kol Shekain, certainly you're not going to wear the uniform either. Okay. Kasev Echad one pasuk says V'chaga Katze B'Kurim Esecha. And it says there's another pasuk that says Kumalachas Avoida Loisasu. So which one is it? Is it Masecha and Yontif, or is it Loisasu? Maybe you can't do Malacha. So Amar Reb Chananya Kate is Kamish Nimikros Halalo. How can you count both these pasukim? So B'Shoshu Chol B'Choil, when Shavuos falls out on during the week at Chagigah V'Shoivus. So so on Shavuos itself, you have to keep the yontif, and you're not allowed to do any malachas. You can't do any ketzira. But if Shavuos falls out on a Shabbos, lemachat chagig, we said you can bring in the karbanis the next day, the kaitzer, and you can cut. So therefore, this is a scenario we can kind both psukim here. However, you have to measure it to your bread. In other words, you can't cut, you can't do malacha like we said. The day you bring a carbon is a yontif for you. So therefore, you can't do extra malacha. You do malacha that you need. So yavlim lisasa means just measure out for you can cut tvua, but only for your isa, just for that day. Gadol Tani, lahen inish deheve Elohi oin bikurin. And somebody who has an obligation to bring on a bikur. Now, what are these things? So, eitzim lemizbeach, that's on refers to eitzim. The gizrin lemaracha, or bringing wood for the maracha and the mizbeach. Also, besped v'tainus lasas malacha babiyam. So you could only do malacha that's absolutely necessary. Fine. Moedim, and we said that Beis Hillel agreed. Shem Chol Yes B'Shabbos Shem Tavor Shelo is Lacha Shabbos Habis Hillel Oimrim Yom Tavor Shelo Lacha Shabbos Oy Yerushalmi. So the question is, normally the hide, the Kahan get to keep the hide, right? So what about here? These were kabbanas that were meant to be brought on Yontif, but you couldn't bring them on Yontif because it was on Shabbos, and I have to bring it on Sunday. So now, who gets the hide? Is it mischalek l'cholam mishmaros like a regular Yontif, or is it for the one who actually brings the mishmar that's in charge, the mishmar of Kahan is in charge of the kabbanas for that day? So Rav Tav B'Shem Rav Shai Yispalgon Rav Yochanan B'Shem Malakish. It's Machlokes. Rav Yochanan B'Shem Malakish. Rav Yochanan Shekol Mishmaros. that it is a din of Yontif. No, today's din of Yontif, so all the mishmaros get to split it equally. No, Shalois Mishma from that day's Mishma. The is Amar will go with that girsa. That's the carbon aid of the is Amar, and some people say Yom Tov Shalalach Shabbos or Shami Taflukta the Rabbi Yochanan Shem Lakish. The difference in this lashon, the first one is it's not attributed to Rabbi Tavi B'Shem Rishai. Stop. Okay. Amar Yochanan says Yeshua Tashlum Kol Shiva. Service has Tashlum in all 7 days. Faking that I understand. Hey, so Rabbi Shai Avotani Ma Chodosh. Ma HaChodesh, sorry, L'menuyav Yom Echad, after it says L'menuyav Yom Echad. By Chodesh it says, Manei Yom V'Kadesh HaChodesh. Right, you count days and you Kaddish 1 day of Rosh Chodesh. The fact that we have 2 days on Rosh Chodesh, that's a suffix. But it's really only 1 day of Rosh Chodesh. So too, Atzeres also is only 1 day. Amr B'lo, Shim Lo Chag B'Rishon Yochel Kol Shiva. Notice you have 7 days to make up for it, but you only keep 1 day. So if you miss the first day, you have another 6 days and to keep one of those 6 days and still be Yaitzer Shavuos. Okay, Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Bon Shem, Rabbi Shua Levi, B'chol Yom Koyin Gadol Mislabish B'Kelov, like we saw in Bo Makriv Tom Shashach, that every day it's not Allah, but it was a thing he would come in the Kohen Gadol if he wants. He comes in his dress uniform, and he brings the Tom Shashach. And Yesh Ndarnu Davos Hu Makrivon. And if the Ndarnu Davos, he has the option. Koyin is Kohen Gadol's Noitel Chelik Barosh. He has the right to do the Malach whenever he wants. He goes back home and he eats. He comes back and he does the Thomas Shabbat Rabbayim. Again, this is all optional, but we're saying over here, we see from over here that the Kohen Gadol wore his dress uniform on a regular basis, and we learned in the Mishnah that on purposely on that Sunday when Shavuos came out on Shabbos, so he bring the Gebbanos on Sunday, he did not wear, he made a point not to wear his fancy uniform. We skip the next words. Reb Ukva b'Shem Reb Shai ben Levi lo yoyse kain elo b'Shabbos Yom Tov. No, he only wore his fancy uniform on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So again, this is what we see in the Mishnah, that he dafka made sure not to wear, to show he didn't wear his fancy uniform, especially like Reb Ukva works out very well because he only wore on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So if the Kohen Gadol is not wearing his fancy uniform, must be ipso facto it's not a Yom Tov. Is Tani Tani Hatzitz Miratz al Mitzchay? That some there's machlokes. Is the tzitz miratz only when the Kohen Gadol is wearing it? So there's some hold yes, and it's Tani Tani. I feel it was obvious. Even if the tzitz is sitting in the closet, it's still miratz. Man, no tzitz miratz al Mitzchay by Mitzchay Tamid. He has to always wear it. He has to always wear it. Why? Because that's how it's mechaper. We want the kapara. Man the amau. Afilu b'zavis me'adodem kippurim, because we see on Yom Kippur it's mechaper, right? On Yom Kippur it's mechaper, but he's not wearing it. So mandam it's miratz al mitzchay meseil Rabbi Bun. So this is like Rabbi Yisrael Bun, like we quoted in the beginning. He just said over here, right? He said that the Kohen wore his fancy uniform every day. So that's a right to him. So you see, he wore the tzitz every day. Mandam if it was obvious, Meseil Rav Ukfu, who said he only wore it on select occasions, Shabbos and Yom Tov. Well, what about the rest of the time? There was no kapara. Obviously, there was a kapara. He didn't have to wear it in order to attain that kapara. Thank you, everyone, for joining.